Welcome to Playing Now, the podcast with your host, Joe Conti, where we explore the best content in the universe. Today's show is gonna be epic, so stay tuned and let's have some play. Hey, this is Joe. Welcome back to another episode of Playing Now, our podcast here on Loku. Today, our guest is Ryan Barton Grimley, the director and writer and basically star of Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayers. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. It's very cool of you.
Thank you so much for having me, dude. So honored, humbled and honored. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's absolutely my pleasure, dude. We have a whole section on our platform that's called Frightener. It's all horror movies, which includes comedy horrors. And so when I found Hawk and Rev, I watched the trailer first. Then I added it. Then I watched the movie. So first of all, even the whole movie's like this homage, this love letter to 80s movies.
The trailer's a joke. The trailer's literally a joke.
The whole movie's a joke. It's fucking hilarious, like it's really, and for the whatever the budget was, like it came out really good because all the jokes came through, this is for people like me who's like, I have like a massive VHS collection of old, movies. This movie was
Same.
I'm the audience for this shit, dude. So basically, like, because you reference there's so many film references in the movie. It's nuts, and only people, some of them, well, there's the whole scene where you call out all the yippee-ki-yay, you do all this, which is
one puts baby in a corner.
Baby, yeah, you threw everything in there and it kept going, which was hilarious. And I was like, dude, he's still going. and Ari's like, he's like, those are for movies. It's like, everyone's got that friend, So it's like, but there's other shit in there too, like the end where, not the end, but close, I guess it is the end, where he goes, "You son of a bitch," which is the Predator, like exactly. People like, so people like me pick up on that shit, and there's, you know what I'm saying? So the audience is really there for this kind of movie, and it's just ridiculously hilarious, and I'm glad you put outtakes in it too.
Thank you, dude.
The whole thing with the GIMP at the end, the outtakes with the GIMP in the car. I was like, yes, dude, because everyone wants to see that shit. So I wanted to talk about like how it came to happen. You obviously you wrote the movie first, right? You wrote it.
Yeah. So so I've been trying to make big budget movies in Los Angeles for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And and what that leads me to do is get really frustrated and make a low budget movie.
That's good. Yeah.
So I got one made finally with a couple names called The Truth in 2010. It got released in 2012. It was okay. It's kind of like a horror thriller, home invasion thing. But I felt like really creatively stifled because I got like 17 days. I had like, kind of name actors who are on their way down. And it's just not.
You only had 17 days?
Yeah, dude, not fun or creative. And I was trying to make it with like Hollywood BS. And so I got so like just annoyed during that process because I have a fine arts background. I view all this stuff kind of like art projects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I really do. Like the influences, all of that stuff. I try to get it in there and like really try to make something fun for the audience. I do not care about commercial stuff at all. I watch it and love it, but like as my own art form, I really try to play for the audience and have fun with the feel and the genre. And then I did a comedy about homophobia called Elijah's Ashes with Ari as well.
Right. I saw Ari was in
as an experiment to see how cheap we could make a movie for. Literally. And we made that thing for like, some hamburgers and stuff.
Really?
My hometown in the middle of Central California, Carpinteria.
I love Carpinteria, yeah.
Yeah, like original old Mayberry beach town kind of deal. And then I was like, all right, and we did that, and we were able to get like some press and stuff. And again, we're trying to make a bigger movie, and it just was like falling apart, dude. So So I had written this thriller about around 9/11 times, like way back when I
Yeah.
very first started writing, about the security guard who realized how racist everybody was, about racial profiling. And
Right.
so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a low budget movie. And I was like, I'm gonna rewrite that thing so it's some dumbass like, just I don't know, conspiracy theory
Yeah.
dork,
Yeah.
who's also kind of a good dude as well.
He is a good dude.
Yeah,
Not like a loser, but he lives in a tent in his parents' yard. He reads the note and they're like, maybe you can finally move out. And like,
yeah,
which I love that touch as well, because you could hear both the parents in the notes.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
so he's kind of like down on his shit, and it's because I guess he went to jail because he
Yeah.
killed the original
Well,
first
like
man.
so Hawk was in the military. He
Right.
was guarding some. I think we cut this line, but there was a line where Rev corrects him and he goes like, you no, I think it's in the movie. He's like, you guarded toilet paper, dude. You were not special forces. You were like some airborne ranger.
Yeah.
Like he guarded toilet paper in a warehouse somewhere. But there was this other private who he really was like, that guy's a fucking vampire, and the guy vamped out in the middle of the night, and the only thing he had was like a 2x4,
He
so he
fucking did it.
like
Yeah.
mushed
Yeah.
him with the two
Yeah.
by four,
Bloody as hell too.
and he
Yeah.
went to prison. He didn't go to prison for murder because it was self-defense, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And no one believed that the guy was a vampire,
Obviously. Yeah.
as nobody would.
Right.
And
Well,
now he's
he's
back.
recovering he's trying to get his life back together in a weird way. And that's why in the beginning he's all like, this is the only stupid job I could get after all that shit.
Totally.
But even the guy that's like I guess his supervisor, the other
Yeah,
security guy, even that
yeah,
guy, that
that guy's off.
yeah, what's funny is that, I've watched it a couple of times. I watched it actually with my wife last night again, who's well, she's a huge horror comedy. We love all horror, all comedy. The
Yeah.
two horror comedies are our favorites. Obviously, one of our favorite movies. We have the poster in the house. Lost Boys is one of our favorite movies. This whole
Oh
film was
yeah.
like an homage to Lost Boys in a way.
Oh yeah.
The whole movie's based kind of.
100%. Like
Oh yeah,
Lost Boys, Napoleon Dynamite.
exactly. It's a perfect mix. Yeah. So then what happened? Then you decided to sit down and you were like, I'm gonna kind of.
So I kind of got the spine of that story of a character being hell bent on perceiving the world one way,
Right.
but then really because of that misperceiving something
Right.
huge.
Right. Right.
And I don't want to blow the plot point in
Yeah.
Hawk and
Yeah.
Rev, but I mean, Hawk believes that a band of vampires have moved into this warehouse that he's guarding,
The
and
goth band.
it
Yeah.
turns out that it's not just that easy.
No, I
It's
actually
not
like.
that simple.
I like that twist quite a bit, actually. I honestly I didn't see it coming with
Really?
Jasper. What's his name?
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
forget his real name.
Richard
Richard.
Gaylor, that
He was
actor.
great, by the
Oh
way.
man.
He was
Yeah.
great. What's funny is what I was gonna say before was I just watched the movie again last night with my wife, and it's so weird talking to you because you're Hawk, but you're nothing like Hawk. You know what I mean?
No,
It's throwing me off just a tiny bit.
sorry, dude.
But no, it's cool. It's cool. But it's just such a good mix because it's got like even the gore and the blood in it. Like, that there's I'm gonna do my best not to give away too much of the fun,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in this interview. But there's even towards I guess the kind of the climax where they're all out of the van, and he's pulling things apart.
Oh
That
yeah.
scene was hilarious because he did every call out. Don't lose your head. Even when and the funny thing is they know it too. And he's like, don't lose your head. So they're like, you better not. No, yeah, you better not, dude. The dude's still drinking his beer. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, I
I mean,
love
the whole
that
thing is
character.
it's a mix of like satire, whimsical. It's kind of like old school like airplane type movies. Like it's got
Right.
that. It's not all the way that way, but it's got that level of like just ridiculousness throughout the movie. And
Yeah,
Ari Rev was, and also
hilarious.
he was great. He was amazing. And I checked him out a little bit too, and he's been on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my wife is she's a huge Criminal Minds fan, and Ari was in an episode of Criminal Minds apparently.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I
I
told
was
her,
in one too,
were
but
you?
I think you see me for like literally 3 seconds because they cut all my scenes.
Ah,
It was this terrible episode with like shoving listening devices into things of fried chicken and fried food. And it was just disgusting. Like it read great on this on the page, and then
yeah.
they were shooting and they're like, "This is horrible.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
They've got
foul. No
it's
one's
not
gonna
your
watch
fault they
this."
cut
I'm
this.
like,
Yeah, like what are you doing? We can't put this in the show. That show is like so over the top.
"Oh yeah, it's
Me,
great."
I call it the unsub show because it's all they say is unsub, unsub, unsub. Anyway, getting back to Hawk and Rev, yeah, Ari was like, he to me because you're like the Hawk is like the main character, but you have to have the sidekick that has a different side of a different kind of humor to him, and like
Yeah.
he's not like slow really. He just is kind of kooky and he's into his own thing. You know what I mean? But he's set in his ways, you know what I mean, which I liked about the character. He's very set in his ways. And there are scenes where you guys are always out front of the market, the
The
San
market.
Muerte market or whatever. And
Santa Muerte.
yeah, Santa Muerte. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Obviously the first, the first time I watched the movie, 10 minutes in, I was like, this whole thing is Lost Boys out of its face.
Oh yeah.
And within the first 10 minutes, like I think the movie Lost Boys is actually said aloud
Oh yeah, it's called out
like three
right away.
times. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
three or four times. And that's another thing I like too, was that it wasn't all undertone, like it wasn't all just like,
like
like
subtle,
like
buried kind
it
of
wasn't
like
all subtle, like
yeah.
some of it you actually said the names of the movies, you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
which
dude.
was awesome. But
Yeah,
yeah,
well, I figured we are fans. It is kind of satire, so we can
very
technically get away with it. But
exactly.
why not call
Why
it out?
hold
We
back?
love those fucking movies, man.
Yeah. Why hold back, And
Including the Robert Rodriguez one that we totally slam at the end, and the Batman movie.
yep.
Like, we love those movies.
Exactly, but there's an excuse to put them in there,
Yeah.
everything, there's all these little things that, it's like every other line is like a throw at something, or even like when he says let's get physical and Rev's like, oh, I love that song. It's like I was like, no way did they just
Stop it.
yeah, no, it's so cool because it's like it's kind of a little bit over the top, but it's so well
Yeah.
done that
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you kind of, after a bit you're kind of like they're just gonna go all out with all these kind of references and all these call outs to all this stuff of the time period that I grew up in, and probably you grew up 43, you probably grew up in the same time
Yeah,
period,
exactly,
obviously.
exactly.
So I mean that's actually, by the way, I'll let you up. We actually have the same birthday, April 22nd, by the way.
Oh, dude, great.
Side note,
That's
side
awesome.
note. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But
So I mean, so Ari, full disclosure, Ari and I are we're in-laws.
oh, no
So
shit.
my wife is Ari's older sister. So we've we've kind of
Wow.
he does his thing, I do my thing, and then that meets in the middle quite a lot.
And it picks up. Yeah.
So we're both big fans of like 80s movies and stuff like that. And just a lot of British comedy, which is a weird mix of being over the top and super dry and dark at the same
Yeah.
time, which is like one thing I love about Edgar Wright. And I mean, he's just the most obvious version of that.
Yeah.
There's so many. So when I was like, I'm going to do a low budget movie, I was like, dude, you know what? I'm going to do a low budget movie I actually want to watch. So,
Exactly.
and so I started writing it, and like I told him about it, and he was like, that sounds wackadoodle, man. And I was like, it's going to be fun though. And then I finally gave him the script, and he's like, fuck yeah, let's do this. So we're both part of the indie improv scene in LA.
Okay.
So like Groundling, Second City,
Yeah.
Upright Citizens Brigade, we were doing that,
Cool.
pre-pan kind of deal for years. So
Yeah.
we just basically cast people we like to perform with out of there. And then
Oh,
because
cool.
we knew we could have an amazing script, but that they could additionally add to it, like with lines. Like, so Terry, the accountant,
Yeah.
it's a hilarious character
Yep.
played by Kevin Ocampo. That dude just keeps coming back. And like,
He keeps popping in. Yeah.
dude, we do one take. I'd be like, all right, do one take as is. And then after that, like, do whatever you like, try something. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Ari the same way, because we used to perform in a 2-man improv team too.
Yeah.
So
It's natural
totally
for you
natural.
guys. Yeah.
And it is also good to work with improvisers on horror, because there's that kind of sense in comedy of timing
Yeah.
and understanding that kind of weight beat,
Mhm.
before, and that's the same with horror.
Yeah.
So as an actor, people who are aware of that in comedy, they just work so great in horror.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we got it together. We did like I think a 12-day shoot, and then we did pickups a bunch of times, and I mean just kind of built it out. And then at some point we had like a 2.5 hour cut, and we were like, oh my
Yeah, let's cut
God.
it. Well, it's kind of it's on the. I mean, you cut a lot out then because
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
movie's like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And we got
So
it down to just like the beats that played the fastest.
and it worked the
And
best.
then coincidentally ended the post process and the festival process, or the submission process, right as COVID hit. So it was
Right.
kind of a weird thing. So we premiered digitally at all the big horror festivals all around the world as a super low budget movie.
Yeah.
And we all zoomed from our
And
houses.
that's how it was.
Cool.
No, dude, this movie has a very it's got a big audience because people. First of all, like yourself, I'm a huge horror guy. I'm a huge
Yeah.
80s guy. Me and my wife, we watch horror movie. We just watched Reanimator as a family on
Oh,
family movie because my
amazing.
older daughter hasn't seen it. You know what she did?
So good.
You know what she did? We
Yeah.
went to sleep because we're old and have a toddler. But my teenager daughter, she went to sleep. We went to sleep. She went and watched the next two sequels all night because she's got summer break. And she's like, "Have you seen? I watched Bride of?" I was like, "You did what?" I was like, "I haven't even seen Bride of Reanimator. It's probably awesome, you know."
She's hooked, dude.
So I mean,
It's awesome. I
but
love it.
the point is, it's like a movie like Hawk and Rev, people that love horror comedies because they
Correct.
love because it's such a great combination if it's done right. And with Hawk and Rev, it's done right, and the whole thing is also again such an homage and love letter to the 80s and the 90s movies, and it was just like something that oh, this is what I was going to say. When you guys are sitting outside the front of Santa Muerte
Yeah.
Market,
Yeah.
because it keeps happening, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like 4, 5, 6 times maybe throughout
It's
the
like
film.
Clerks,
Clerks. That's exactly what I was just gonna say. I was like, oh, that's kind of. It made me think of Clerks. So it's like you did this thing that's like it's an original movie, but it's like this call out to all these films, and it's like some of it's so blunt and in your face, and some of it's like you have to really know certain movies to get it. So it's a great combination of those different levels. And so I wanted to ask you. You keep saying low budget, but how did you get it funded? Is it did you fund it yourself, or how?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
did.
we literally, yeah. The original shoot, I mean, we had a crew of like 4 or 5 people,
Right.
and I mean, they're badass crew people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we got a lot of favors, just a mega ton of favors.
Right.
And
Sometimes
then
it takes that.
we did our original shoot, then we did pickups after a cut, pickups after a cut. After 2 or 3 years, it's kind of spread out. It's a lot easier to kind of do that.
Right. Yeah.
And it was and like there were some people we pitched this thing to do
Sure.
like but it seemed like we'd still be trying to get it done. You
Right.
know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And at some point I was like, I'm a director. I just want to kind of do this stuff. I want to get it going.
Yeah.
And like I like being on set. I like making the stuff.
Of course.
And I mean, I also wanted to see what Ari could do with the music, because he and Robbie Elfman composed all of the music. Which is insane.
That's actually something I wanted to touch on was the actual music, but also the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Of the film. Like there's such a great array of, you know what I mean? Like it's
like Counterpoint, right? Like you expect like darkness, but it's like Beyonce.
But then some parts of the soundtrack or the score were like the synthwave 80s synthwave stuff, which you needed in a film like this, obviously, because the whole film is. But then you also have these one of my I actually laughed at simply the fact there's the scene where and again I'm not going to give too much away about like this heavier stuff in the movie, but there's a scene with the goth band, and they're sitting in the car with the Gimp, and they're watching all the stuff go down, and they're kind of bored. That scene, they're kind of bored. They're watching everything happen, And he's like, I'm kind of bored. And he's like, well, that just happened. He's like, yeah, that's true, And he's hitting the bong, I think, in there, or he's holding it. And throughout that scene, I don't know what it is, but there's this like little light, like indie pop song happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you just don't expect the goth band to be listening to that, getting
Oh
stoned.
yeah.
So
They're
that
just
to me
listening
was
to like
funny.
Kiss FM or something.
Yeah, that to me was hilarious. I was like, what the fuck are they listening to? I was like,
well, that's the genius of Ari and Robbie. Like they are mad scientists with music. They write musicals.
right.
So
Oh wow.
like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's like their mad genius. And dude, there are like 125 music cues in that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
Because
I
there's
mean,
montages out the ass in that
yeah,
movie,
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
which is another callback to the time period. There's so many montages of going down that one alley all the
Oh
time,
yeah.
like and on the beach and like all the stuff that and it's just if you know the time period, the films of the time period, you pick up on all that stuff. And it looks like the montages were probably the most fun shit to film.
They were so fun,
You
man. They
know,
were so fun. I mean, it's weird how much time and like specificity montages,
goes
if you're quoting old montages,
then
take
doing
like
one.
just the you son of a bitch thing,
Yeah.
man. We did that for like 4 hours because we're like, nope, it's bad. Someone play that thing. We have like an iPad that somebody was streaming that scene from Predator, and we're like, no, the angle's wrong. We got to get it a
Yeah,
little
totally.
just otherwise people aren't gonna get it.
You're getting all into that one. But I
And then we
love
were like, oh, dude, we should have worked out more before this. We're so
yeah,
sad.
totally. Well, I mean, come on. That because it's a legend scene, you know what I mean? The original is a legend scene, and it's like,
Yeah.
when it happened in the movie, it was like, you son of a bitch, and you did it. And I was like, they did that. I was like, they fucking did that. I was like, that's awesome. And like, I don't know how it works. I'm not a filmmaker, I don't know how it
Yeah.
works. The whole scene where you're throwing every catchphrase out there to him, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" That whole scene, I was like, is he allowed to do all that? Are you allowed to say like yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker? Everything you said was absolutely classic, So it's
Well, it's
like,
because we are I mean, our ideas that would be under satire because we are kind of making fun of it all.
yeah, exactly.
And the way that we shot that, so there's probably 20 of those written in the script. But by the way, about 85% of the script is word perfect. So it was not all crazy improv, you know what I
Right,
mean? But crazy improv in the right places.
right,
And,
right.
and this is a great example. So I'm sitting there and they're like, all right, we got through those. And then AJ, our producer, was like, what about this one, this one, this one? I was like, all right, let's just roll for like 20 minutes and you guys just yell them at me and I'll
Yes.
take a beat. And we just did that for 20 minutes. There are so many, dude.
Wow.
And my one regret is I didn't get enough. I only got like maybe 30 reactions from Rev. I should have gotten more reactions from
Oh,
Rev that
I
were
see. Yeah.
outlandish. You know what I mean? But it was like it's so funny when you make something that's so weird, you realize how much weirder you could have made it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, you did a good job on the weirdness level,
Thanks,
but
man.
but I mean, and like even someone like me telling me that, like,
Yeah,
there's a part of me that wants to see like every single one. I
I
want to see
know, I know.
and with getting Rev reactions from a scene like that, it's like, his reaction is pretty much just kind of like trying to figure out what the hell you're talking about, like, so there's not too many reactions you can get, it's he's kind of just
Yeah,
like, what, like he's just
yeah.
dumbfounded. I don't know what you mean by anything you're saying. And that's
You know,
that's
it's I was thinking about what you were saying. So the fact that like we overtly and then also subtly have all of these references
yeah,
and kind of just push it through this story as a kid of the 80s and being and VHS suddenly being in our houses and we got to watch so many movies.
yes,
It was almost like you remember those summers where you would watch those movies and then you go hang out with your friends and you were like there was a weird blurring of
yeah,
your reality. That's
yeah,
kind of what I was trying to capture. Like they had watched so much of it. Hawk almost felt like he was in a movie.
yeah, right. And you did well with that too. And I do remember, stuff like that. And that's I think that's probably why, when I just saw the trailer, even just
Yeah.
how you literally just even just how even the title comes in the font of the title with the electricity and the ching, and it's like the trailer had synth music in it, and I was just like, and if the thing looks hilarious, I'm super picky, dude. Like I'm so
Yeah.
picky with I'm not an elitist, but I'm kind of like yourself. Like I'm a collector. I fucking grew up in the 80s. Had the thing you were talking about, just the fact that you said you remember the summers where you'd watch all those movies and you meet up with your friends and there was a blur between reality and all the movies you just watched because you were still in them.
Yeah.
That for you to say that, like we could be fucking best friends, dude. Like I
High
I
five,
get
buddy.
it. Like I
Yeah,
get it,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
if for I can't even articulate it the way that you just did. Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
was like, perfect. So like I think that when I saw the trailer, I didn't have a lot of I still don't have like enough horror comedy on the channel.
There's not a lot out there, man. It's
There's
really
not a lot,
tough.
and well, there's some, but it's like, it's a lot. I think it depends on what kind of horror comedy you're going for.
There's not that much horror comedy out
Oh,
there.
well, it's just some of it's done right and some of it's,
It's
some of it's for certain kinds of people and some of it's for different kinds of people, I should say. Not some of it's
yeah,
done
yeah,
right and some of it's not. It's just I like horror comedies that are more like Hawk and Rev, where there's a whimsical aspect to it,
yeah.
and there's a lot of satire in it. I like horror comedies like that over like ones that have, that are a little bit more, like you said, like dry, like a little too
Mhm,
dry,
mhm, mhm.
where the comedy's there, but it's like not,
They're not
not
having
every,
enough fun.
it's not, it's exactly with Hawk
Yeah.
and Rev. It's like the whole movie is supposed to be a good time. You're supposed to be like, this is ridiculous and laugh at the whole thing.
Dude, I literally said this to our crew when we first started shooting. Like each time we'd start pickups or something, I'd be like, guys, remember, we're literally making Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayers.
Yeah.
It's not a drama. We're not trying to save the
Here's the
world.
title of the
We're
movie.
trying to have fun here. And
Yeah,
we're making a thing that people can watch and like turn their brain off and laugh their ass off. You
exactly.
know what I mean? And they could do it with their friends, they could do it with their kids. It's not that raunchy. Like,
Yeah.
there is gore, but it's operatically funny and
It's
stupid.
also fun, like there's two,
Yeah,
like there's overblood,
yeah,
you bite into someone's neck
yeah,
and there's like a hose of blood coming out, for like a minute or two, and you're just like,
yeah,
whoa, but
yeah.
some, a lot of the shots were really cool. Like the
Thanks,
one, I'll
buddy.
give this part away. The one, the one, it's like a 5 second thing, but the one surfer dude, he's like, yeah, bros. He's like, someone's coming up behind him. It's
Yeah.
before it's the guy, who it is. And the guy comes up behind him and does he bites him, yeah. And that shot was really cool because of how it was done. How he
Yeah, yeah,
shows up behind him, and I love the surfer guy. Even the surfer guy was great. All the actors were awesome in this. Like all the actors were awesome because you have to know comedy to do it right. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
the surfer guy, like just slightly overdoing the whole thing, was perfect. He's like, yo, man. He's like, you better stop, bro. Like he's like,
Stop messing around,
yeah,
guys.
dude. And it went on for a little bit longer, and then
I
but like,
like that. I like that part where it goes a little unexpectedly long because there's a point where the audience is like, wait, that went a little too long. Is something weird or funny or scary about to happen?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a fun thing to play with. On those compartmentalized like death scenes,
yeah,
I kind of wanted them to be a weird mix of being still campy, but then kind of scary a
yeah,
little bit. At least the stuff feeling kind of like aggressive, you
yeah.
to where you're like, oh, dude, that's not a joke. There's a threatening thing out there for
Yeah,
these
no, totally.
poor
That's
dumbasses.
and that's what I mean. Like a scene like the surfer guy scene does that.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
surfer guy's like the whimsical, overdone, like whoa, and then like he comes up and bites him, and you're just like, okay, all right,
Oh boy, that
shit
dude
got
just
serious for a second. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then it goes back to Hawk. So
yeah,
I also like, I like the whole, sometimes I imagine it because I do music and stuff, but it's like the whole process of the post. There's so much done in post for this movie.
yeah,
All
yeah,
the,
yeah.
like, not just like the visual effects were done there, but I mean like in post, like the cut scenes and how the transitions were when
Oh
he
yeah.
looks at the notebook and it says Hawk and Rev, and there's like these little silly stars, like the whole movie's not, like you said, it's not to be taken so damn seriously.
That's
It's
Princess Bride, right? I mean, it's like a fairy tale,
exactly, yeah. So it's so it's like, and I thought you guys really like, I think you guys really like nailed that,
I appreciate that,
yeah.
dude.
So
I love horror comedy. I mean, on that note, like right now, I'm trying to finish a thing that is a psychological horror movie.
so that's what I was just going to ask you. So you have something that's called Listen Carefully is the upcoming
Yeah,
thing, right? So
yeah, yeah.
what's that entail?
So that's like that's a psychological horror. Not very funny, but super creative and pretty
So
bonkers.
you went full horror, more psychological horror with this.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's like God, what there was that movie with Tim Robbins early on where he comes back from the war and he's imagining everybody's like chasing him and stuff, and he wakes up at the very end and it's like, oh my God, it's his memento mori. It's sort of
Is
playing,
Jacob's Ladder?
yeah, it's kind of plays with the Jacob's Ladder
Right.
idea, but from the perspective of like a new parent, a dad losing his mind after having this daughter, and this kind of night from hell. And so the pitch is like he's a assistant bank manager. He's doing some fraudulent stuff at work to try to pay for the family, and he watches his infant daughter for the first time by himself while his wife, who's really unhappy with him and their relationship, goes out with her
This
girlfriends,
sounds dark
and the
already.
baby goes missing. People try to extort money from him through the baby monitor, which is this cute little owl.
Wait. So the baby goes missing
Yes,
while he's watching her?
yes.
Oof.
And
Are
he
you a
has
dad?
this.
Are you a
Yeah,
dad?
yeah, I am, dude. This is where it comes from.
Yeah, huh? I was gonna
And
say.
then he is like trying to still get away with all of his crimes and get the baby back, and like it is a mind melting thing, and it's very influenced by like Hitchcock,
Ooh,
but
cool.
then like
Fucking love Hitchcock movies.
Abel
Yeah.
Ferrara, and like just darker, grittier kind of
Ooh,
shit like that. There's still quite a bit of 80s. There's a massive like 80s synth score.
cool.
Actually by the guy who plays one of the goth band members, the guy with the kilt, Brad
Oh yeah,
Marshall.
yeah.
Yeah, he's another amazing composer. And
The guy that has the red. Yeah,
yeah,
he goes.
yeah.
He's like, I love
Ari plays like 50 voices in this thing.
really.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Wow.
And a couple characters. And
This
I
is
play the lead, which is kind of this weird, boring accountant dude who's corrupt, but is just like, I don't know, it's just another weird kind of straight man character, but it
well,
was very fun. And
I
we
would
made it the
imagine.
same way.
I would imagine it's if first of all, just the sound of that. I'm a dad. Obviously, like I said, I'm a dad too.
Yeah.
It's yeah. That's why I asked you because like to kind of write something like that or pinpoint a feeling like that and be able to put
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
You have to
It
be
came
the
out of
kind of
an anxiety nightmare. I
yeah. That's
literally
what I'm.
had this nightmare about it when we had our first daughter. I kept having this nightmare of like the window being open and just the trailing off of the sound, and it
Oh,
just sparked this whole thing. Yeah, it gets you deep, man.
yeah.
And like so that kind of triggered that thing. And believe it or not, we had been shooting that thing while we were doing the post for Hawk and Rev.
Is that
So
done? Is that
it, it
shot?
it's shot, it's completely done, and I'm doing like a one more month of a polish cut,
Oh,
and a lot of
you're
the
post now.
score's
Yeah.
done. Yeah, we're
Cool.
almost done. We should be hopefully premiering festival wise in the beginning of next year at some point somewhere. We did have an awesome inter like non-US distributor trying to do all the territories,
Yeah.
but it was during COVID, and a lot of that international stuff is in person.
Yeah.
So they had the worst time, and it was this great dude. And but it after 18 months, I was like, I think I'm gonna just try to get on Film Hub because I put my older movies on Film Hub, and
Got it.
really have been getting a lot of what's so amazing about this new world that we're going into is how many incredible like niche streamers there are all
There
over
are.
the world,
Oh
dude.
yeah.
It's fantastic. I
Yeah.
I just am looking at the strike right now, and everybody's complaining about these 4 or 5 platforms, and yeah, I have some of the same complaints for sure, but I'm also like, well, there's this whole other thing that's happening because of
Yeah.
it. and
Yeah.
and it's growing way faster than all that bullshit.
Yeah,
So
and it's reaching all these new people. It's,
totally,
people that even think about this. Think about like before COVID, when the movies shut, the theater shut down for a while, and then all of a sudden the movies that were going to go in theater started going streaming. And
yeah,
then people, you could buy them or you could rent them or whatever, but all these other platforms started, like Paramount Plus started coming out, Peacock started coming out, all
yeah.
these things started coming out, and you are now able to reach all these other people that would beforehand have never even heard of your stuff, or just because of the way that things work, you know what I mean? Like, and now you can reach way more people way more easily. But
Yeah,
at the same time, I get the writer's strike too. They're getting paid like shit, in comparison to the billions of dollars that these guys make.
it's a
But
very different. They're in a very different business than I am. I
then
mean,
yeah, you're
yeah,
someone that you're an actor. I get, you're kind of like an actor first in a way. Like
yeah.
that's kind of what you
I
think.
have been for sure.
Yeah, and that's
Thing
kind of like
going on out, I'm gonna start kind of receding into the woodwork a little bit in that, and like,
directing.
yeah, I'm directing more and just trying to up my output more.
Yeah.
Like my I can't wait to be done with Listen Carefully, because the next thing I'm gonna do is a horror comedy that's inspired by Christopher Guest.
Oh,
So if you can think of like Best in Show
yeah.
or like Waiting for Guffman, but like a horror version
Whoa,
of
dude,
that
cool
with some
idea.
gore and stuff like that. So it's like fake doc style, kind of with interviews and stuff and
Mm,
dumbasses, and but a little more realistic, and then some pretty operatic gore mixed in there.
yeah.
I
Very
don't know.
cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. Yeah.
that's my next thing. And again, like, will I try to? Would Netflix do that? I don't think so, dude. I think that's too risky for them. Maybe they would try to do it with a named director, but why would I give that away? Like when I could try to make that myself with people I know and make it
Yeah.
properly.
Well,
That's
here's
the
the
other thing, dude, because we could not have made Hawk and Rev as interesting and as niche specific for people, which like yourself and all of the festival programmers that programmed it are like, holy fuck, dude, we
yeah.
need so much more of this.
Yeah.
But that would never have happened if it were by committee with, all these corporate kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
things.
If you had like, 25 investors in the film, and
Like, I don't give a shit about Lost Boys. You'd be like, what?
what are you talking about? You're the wrong person. That's the thing. You're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but no, I'm glad. And that's the thing that you can tell with Huck and Rev too. It's like from the get-go, you're like, this is, and in a way everything is, but not everything really is. You look at Huck and Rev and you go, this is a 100,000% a passion project. This is
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
that, you know, out of pure love, it
For
was
sure.
made. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
And you watch it and you go, dude, that must have been, even my wife said, like, when, and we watch movies all the time, constantly. She never says stuff like this, but she was like, that look, she goes, it must be really fun to film a movie.
Like a lot of film sets, TV included, these bigger budget things, you spend, maybe an hour out of the 12-hour day acting if you're really lucky, probably 20 minutes, maybe 5 minutes even. That's not how it is on our set.
Yeah.
You're going to spend probably 6 to 7 hours out of just an 8-hour day, and we cut it 8.5. We're
Yeah.
done, dude. Like,
Yeah.
like we're there to have fun. Like we have families. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
But you can sense that in the movie. It's like these guys
Yeah.
are just having like a ridiculous time,
Like
doing
I
this.
want to laugh. Like all those people are in the movie because I'm a fan of their work.
Oh yeah, of
I
course.
love
Yeah.
them. I'm not like, on my first movie, it was like, the casting people are like cynically like, oh, this name will get you this, and I'm like, oh
Are
man.
you talking about the yeah.
Yeah, my first film, The Truth, and I'm like, I just that I don't know. I get it when you're spending big money to make the thing, but
Right.
like when you're not, like why bother? Like
No.
actually have the funnest choice.
Make it something with people that you want to make it with. Make it something
Yeah,
that's going to be fun, and make it something because it's a fucking passion project. You know what I mean?
exactly.
That's why Hawk and Rev is good, because you can tell it's for the love of everything, and it's
Yeah,
supposed to be the way it is. And that's why the jokes come through properly. The references come through properly. Like everything, a lot of the
yeah.
things, and the people that are in the movie, especially Ari and Richard Jasper,
Richard, yeah,
those two in particular,
Yeah,
And
so good,
the
dude.
girl was great too. She was great too.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jana
but
Savage.
she was great. Yeah, but
Incredible screenwriter Jana Savage had a movie that she wrote called Wildflower. After she was in Hawk and Rev, so she and the security guard boss Casey
right.
Graff, they're a couple. They just had a kid.
Got it. Okay.
These are all like
It's a close knit thing. I love it.
super
I
super
love it.
close bubble.
I love it.
She wrote this movie called Wildflower. She was kind of writing it while we were shooting, and this thing ended up premiering at Toronto. It's on like big streamers right now. It's crazy.
Wow.
So good, dude. But these
Yeah.
people are all multi-talented people
You can tell. Yeah.
down for the cause, man.
Yeah. But I mean, like with a film like this, when you're doing horror, you're doing comedy, especially particularly comedy just in general, you got to have the right people in there. Because if you choose the wrong people, it could just ruin the whole vibe of
Oh
the
yeah.
film. But I think that what really made it for me, like you get your character from the beginning. I mean, he wakes up in a tent and he gets up and goes in the parents' house,
It's a
and
little too aggressive in
yeah,
weird ways. You're like,
he's everyone has their shtick, and
yeah,
everyone's shtick is just slightly over the top, which is what Hawk's character is. He's
yeah, yeah.
definitely a little bit over the top, and everyone in the movie tells him to kind of like they go to his mom's place, and don't worry, I was in the army, I know how to handle these. Where's your son? And he's like, she's like, throughout the whole movie, he does stuff like that, and it's like you get it. He's like, and Ari and Rev was like, he's a little bit over the top in his area.
So kooky in the best way, man.
Yeah, and so you got the right people to do it. I think that's kind of why it played through.
Yeah.
And I was gonna, before you brought it up, right, but I was gonna ask you if you were in the new movie, listen carefully, and if you were planning on focusing more on directing at some point, because I
I
think
am in the new movie, listen
no,
carefully.
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, it basically I'm like, okay, that's the last amount of that level of energy I'm willing to put into that department
right.
because like
I can't imagine doing everything like that.
it's hardcore. And what's so great is like being like, you know what, I'm gonna take a slight step back and play a supporting person. It enables like more
Space.
things in
Yeah.
space.
Touching back, back getting back to listen carefully real quick,
Yeah,
so the role is totally different than like the role of Hawk. So just let's forget
completely.
about directing right now and just go back to
Yeah,
acting. Like, and again, I can't imagine, having to spread yourself that thin, I guess. I like I said, I don't know how. I'm not a filmmaker, dude. Like, I don't know exactly
yeah.
how it works. But I mean, that sounds difficult to be a director. You wrote the movie, okay, you wrote it, that's written, but I'm sure changes happen along the way.
Oh hell
And
yeah.
yeah, and then being in the movie, and then directing the movie, being in the movie. I know people do it, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it sounds strenuous, like
It
pressure,
was super fun and I think I'm done with it.
Yeah. Well, what my
It's
whole thing
super
is,
fun and like there is a weird thing where it makes it like very economical in a
yeah.
weird way
Well,
because I'm
yeah.
just kind of like I always acted or improvised, and when I acted I always acted on like for film and TV stuff, so I was never like a theater thing. So for me it was always super technical anyway, and then
Yeah.
with the improvisational background of like literally years of this stuff, for me like turning it on and off is just not a problem. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, I just was always able to kind of do that weird thing, um, which was great and enabled it
Yeah.
uh, in a great way. And I also like I kind of want to play older characters now,
Okay.
which I don't think I want to put in these movies. You know what I
Right.
mean? So because I want to keep doing a lot. Like I even want to make a movie with my two daughters. I have a 15-year-old daughter who just went to summer camp and DP'd her first short. And like she's a 15-year-old girl, dude, who took 1 year of photography and fucking DP'd like a 7.5 minute long finished short. And like it's not perfect, but I'm like, my God, if I could have shot something that good the first time,
Yeah.
I would have lost my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta be that must feel outstanding though. You
Yeah,
know?
my youngest, who's 12, is an actress and sings and dances and acts. And I'm like, these kids, like, I gotta kind of start I don't know, incorporating them and make a kids horror as well. That's
You
fun.
should. You should.
Yes,
You know, I watched a movie called, you ever see Cooties? There's a movie called
yeah,
Cooties.
yeah.
That was done so, that's a horror comedy in a way. That was done so well.
Rainn Wilson, right? Hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was done really well. I think that, you know, the kind of person that you are, the way that you do your thing, you know, you know, I think that you're the dude that's like, yeah, I'm good. I can go for this role or this project, that project, but I can also create
Yeah.
my project. And then you actually fucking do it, you know, which is like crazy town. And my question was, and listen carefully, because again, when you first came on the thing, I'm like, okay, there's Hawk, right?
Yeah,
Because that's how I know you, but you're nothing like Hawk. So
right.
so I keep thinking of the smile at the end where he wakes up in the tent, he's just like, you know. But anyway, it's like the most ridiculous smile. But anyway, but for listening carefully, it sounds like a way more serious movie, less comedic.
Yeah.
So how was it doing that? Did you have to like channel those like weird fucking dreams and shit, and be all crazy nervous about shit and stress?
And it was tough, like cutting the performance and gearing the performance right for what we had, because it's also not a straight ahead tone. You know what I mean? It's not just like, this guy's imagining stuff, or there's a real demon, he's not imagining it.
No,
it's
he unfolds.
It's blurry. And so yeah, I mean, some of the pickups, we went back to kind of get a different version of the performance, because like it was like killer in some places, and in other places we're like, oh, this isn't scary enough, like this needs to be way scarier and frenetic. And I mean, the interesting thing about this movie is we shot it all over LA, and I mean, every single location is stolen basically, except for my house, which is the character's house.
Right.
And I mean, the post-production process of covering up like signs and logos,
oh God,
all over the place, because this dude works at a bank, and so part of them extorting money from him is him having to go to thousands of ATMs.
So you're going to all kinds of ATMs around LA,
dude. Oh my God. It's wild.
You got to stick to the valley for that. You got to stick to like Sherman Oaks.
We were like Century City and like,
Sherman Oaks,
stupid.
Tarzana. Yeah, you got to go to those places.
Like, why is that blazer following us?
Totally. Yeah, you got to watch your back for that one. They'll catch you and they'll find you.
That poster is the last. This little thing, Repatriation, was the last drama I did, and it was shot in 2014 or 15 and released in 2017. And I played
are all those awards?
Holy
shit.
I think played like a million festivals, and we got distribution around the world, but it is about stolen valor. It's brutal, like, you know, kind of a tough thing. My buddy Doug Mueller, who worked on Hawk and Rev as well as the gaffer, that was his first directorial thing. We went and shot that out in Iowa, and I hadn't really played anything dramatic since then. So I'm excited for I don't know, folks to see that. Who knows? Maybe that will resurrect my mainstream acting career.
You know, here's what I was gonna say.
Either way, I'm just gonna keep making fun movies. Like, I'm just gonna dive right into Wolfburger.
I hope you do.
I hope Ari's part of it. I'm pretty sure he will be.
I hope he is too.
He might be Wolfburger. I don't know.
Cool. He should be. He's really good. I think that he's a really great actor, you know. And that's what I was going to say earlier, was just, and this, we can, you know, again, we'll end it soon, and thank you for taking all your time. And
happy to do it, dude. Like, this stuff literally to talk to people about movies. Like, it's my favorite thing.
That's what this whole podcast is about. It's about talking to directors about their projects, and not necessarily projects that just happened, but projects that have happened a few years back or whatever, so that they can, you know, and a lot of directors that I talk to, they kind of go, you know, it's really cool that, this resonates with someone, or that I haven't really talked about this movie in a few years, so it's not like I forgot about it, but it's like,
You have time to process it and you look back at it a different way. It's more clear kind
yeah,
of what happened because
yeah,
they're all, they're giant art projects that are collaborative. It's always kind of a big messy thing. It can be
yeah.
amazing, it's super enjoyable to me, but I mean, and stressful, but still
That's part of the
like
game.
that whole creative part of it and how what you learned or the approaches, all this stuff really changes over time. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because you learn from each one, right? I mean, it's like,
Okay, dude.
so my last question for you is going to be the hardest. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And you can take a minute or two,
Yeah.
but I was gonna ask, and I ask all directors this, top three favorite movies of all time.
Oh boy.
I
Okay.
know it sucks. It's a rude question to ask. I hate asking it, but I also love asking it, because for a director to give that, actor and a director and a writer to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
things influence you, things inspire you. Like, even just top couple, whatever you got. What do you think?
I'm a big Kubrick fan, like
Okay.
a really huge Kubrick fan, and I don't think it reflects in my style at all. But
not, not Hawk and Rev anyway, but yeah.
but but uh, but I love I love The Shining. I
Me too.
love The Shining so much,
Yeah.
and I love Clockwork Orange.
Me too.
Yeah, perfect movie would be a mashup of those two styles.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan. I love Edgar Wright. I mean, Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies. Hot Fuzz is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, Edgar Wright. Oh, of course, dude. Shaun
Newer,
of the Dead's Shaun of the Dead, the great team, and Shaun of the Dead. That's what, like, that would that's like an absolutely, that, because that movie is like,
that's a
there's
right. I mean, that's a crazy 10 movie.
the attention to detail given in Shaun of the Dead was astounding, and there's scenes in that movie that are scary as shit,
Yeah,
and it's still hilarious,
yeah,
like, there's a scene in that movie where he's sitting in the pub and he looks outside and he sees the zombie walking, and then the bus goes in front of it and then it's gone. That scared the shit out of me. I was like, ooh, that was creepy as shit right there,
yeah.
So, well, that's good.
Yeah, and then let's see. I mean, I'm a huge. I used to be a huge action movie fan. So like 80s action was really big for me, and 80s buddy movies were really big for me. So
Like
like
Lethal Weapon.
and Lethal Weapon, a lot of that kind of back and forth, Die Hard, obviously.
Yeah.
But now, like I've been trying to dig deeper into like I don't know, just like old French stuff, like Jean Pierre Melville, right? Like because you hear all these great directors quote, they go, "Oh, what's your favorite movie?" "Oh, this movie by Jean Pierre Melville." I'm like, "Who the fuck is Jean Pierre
Yeah, I've
Melville?"
never heard of him.
So there are all these like French crime noirs, and he kind of shot them pretty low budget, almost like the new wave directors did. He was just about 5 to 10 years before. I think they actually got a lot of their production ideas from him.
Huh.
So he's like shooting all these like black and white kind of noir crime movies, but they're not as structured as American ones. They're more loose.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Like they're so cool.
What's his name again?
Jean Pierre Melville. I heard this thing. Martin Scorsese said this thing. He's like, I'll watch any movie, dude. Like I'll literally watch any movie because there's some great minutes in every movie.
Yeah.
And I learn something watching a movie. That dude watches literally everything. It's crazy.
Have you ever seen Bringing Out the Dead with
Yeah,
Nicolas Cage?
yeah,
That believe it or not, that is actually my favorite Scorsese movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
But I mean, the movies that you're talking about, like Lethal Weapon 1 and Lethal Weapon 2, and like all those movies were like,
I guess my process is I really love to watch a lot of like serious stuff. I mean,
yeah,
I watched a lot of 80s comedies,
yeah,
obviously, and all the stuff. But then I like to watch a lot of the scary stuff and then try to find what's funny about it.
yeah,
That's what led to Hawk and Rev. That's
right,
what's going to lead to Wolfburger.
right.
Listen carefully is just I don't know, a weird
That's
personal experiment.
that's more personal. I found that whole thing feels like a little bit more of a serious, a little bit different side of a personal,
For sure, for sure.
which is cool. But also, there's movies like, written, but also written like Shane Black, I think wrote Lethal Weapon. Like,
Amazing.
have you ever seen The Good Guys?
Yeah, so good. Kiss Kiss
You know,
Bang Bang, top 10, dude. That thing
oh
is
my God, great. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, they love Lethal Weapon and they've never heard of that movie. I'm like, dude, Shane Black wrote that movie. It's basically like watching Lethal Weapon. It's the same shit, only it's with Ryan Gosling what's his
oh yeah.
yeah.
Russell Crowe, yeah.
Russell Crowe. Yeah, Russell Crowe's the other guy in Russell Crowe. And also there's like movies like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. You ever seen that?
Yeah, love it.
Great fucking movie. Like these movies, and Shane Black is involved in that. I don't know if he wrote it or produced it or what, but
All of the above. He wrote that and directed it. That was like his comeback thing that got him the director.
Such a good movie. Like such a good movie. Val Kilmer, one of Val Kilmer's last movies.
I didn't bring up all the Korean stuff. Like Old Boy and
love Old Boy.
Yeah, and like Thirst and like a bunch of these like I there's just something. It was amazing to see Parasite win Best Picture and stuff, but like
I love that
kind of shit. Like The Host is one of my favorite movies.
I haven't seen that one actually.
That guy made this movie called The Host, which is a monster movie. It's a lot of the same actors, and it's weird and hilarious and scary. That dude is a just bomb filmmaker. He's so good.
Well, I love I love the old school, like Old Boy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and all that shit's amazing. I remember
I saw Old Boy, I literally was like, I have to rewatch this right away.
I saw Old Boy and Sympathy. They did at the New Beverly Cinema in LA.
Oh yeah.
They played those two back to back, and when I came out of it, I wanted to eat dumplings for like 2 years straight. I was just like, give me dumplings. Yeah. I mean, you're pulling from different places. I mean, that's kind of what you're, not your job, but I mean, that's part of like, how you
my jam. Like Wolfburger is going to have so many diverse werewolf things, dude.
I love it. I love it.
Even more operatic gore. Like
I love that. Bring that on.
Very early, like Hawk and Red's a little slow burn on the operatic gore, later, but it's earned.
Yeah, I was gonna say till later when it starts picking up with the gore, it really picks up. But yeah,
and I was gonna say, like, I think I'm gonna play with that a little more spread out.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate this. What's up, everyone? This is Joe with Weekly. Welcome to another episode of Playing Now. Today we have a very special guest, Jermaine Aho, who's coming on with us live. Has a rideshare that's on our channel right now. We wanted to get him lucky to get a conversation with him about the film and how it came to be, the characters, and all that kind of good stuff. So let's welcome Jermaine Aho.